Could you give me an example of how you use these quotations in your practice?
One time, I remember particularly, I was counseling with a married couple, and we weren't really getting too far. I could tell they were a lovely couple. They were just struggling. They were trying to work through the usual problems of marriage. They were a young couple, so I was giving them my wisdom and my experience as a psychologist. It wasn't really quite enough, so he said, "Okay, let's find something in this book." I had it with me because I carried it with me. Let's look at the quotations in here. And we kind of found one quotation that dealt with the fact that if you're kind of a couple, or if maybe you're just romancing, you begin to say, well, how do we get through all this? And I was able to bring in quotations that kind of helped as a third party. It wasn't like me. It was like somebody said this. Erich Fromm, very well known psychotherapist, could say, it's not when you say I'm in love, don't expect that feeling to last forever. It's not. It'll go up and down. But when you say, I commit to love you, it's a behavior. And I said, does that make some sense? They said, oh, yeah. It isn't, because the feeling was going up and down, even with this newly married couple. So it gave me some insight on how you could bring a quotation in.
So you use the quotations to break the ice.
It broke the ice. It made it kind of more humorous, but it added a third party who was wiser and more experienced than myself into the conversation. And there's no way you can do that just by talking to yourself. No counselor is that good. So I began to see these quotes as a very powerful technique of helping people to kind of get insights and say, oh yeah. So that's an example of how I used it a couple of places, and it was very, very effective.
There is so much stress in contemporary life that people have a difficult time striking a balance. And this book could help them in balancing their lives?
Well, I think what it does is it's kind of like a stop sign. It says, look, you're very busy, nothing wrong with that. You're doing probably mainly good things. You're busy at work. Work is now requiring more than 40 hours a week of most of us. Things have changed a lot. So somehow I think the book can get you, just to look at it, can get you to slow down a little bit and to sort of say, I want to stop and kind of check and see if I'm building my character. Am I becoming who I want to become? I think it can slow you down, put brakes on it a little bit. You can't stop lots of time, I know that. Just occasionally slow down and see if you're where you want to be in your character. That's a very personal thing. Some might say that sounds kind of selfish. I'm saying, no, being personal doesn't mean you have to be selfish. This is how I can become a better person to do what? Be better shaped to help others. And there's lots of people who've talked about the fact that it's tragic to just think about building your own character unless you realize that by building your character, you're really getting in a position to help other people. That's kind of the bottom line, I think, is to somehow to be who you are and be as honest as you can and be as much as you'd like to be, and then be in a position to turn around and help somebody else go through the process. The book, I think, can help do that. I think people who have lost hope, people who've been addicted, or people who've gone through horrible experiences like wartime veterans, I think this book could help them renew and find that, by the great quotations, they could inspire them to kind of get back on track. This might provide inspiration to come back. And for the military, we've got so many men and women who have been hurt so badly, both physically and mentally. Tremendous deaths and pain. Can this book perhaps help them to kind of gather together their strength and move on? I would hope so. Another audience that I think about is less obvious, but I think it's moving in this direction, is businessmen. We've had so many people accused of improper behavior, lack of character over the last 10 years and decades, and we've gone through a tremendous recession kind of experience. Millions of people have been harmed and hurt. Basically, I think the idea of businessmen looking at how to build their own character, how to build their own skill levels, how to be better people in a world that can be devastated by their improper behavior, I think that really makes some sense. So I see that as another audience. Another one I think of right hand, one more I think of youth. They're moving from this family where they've been kind of dependent on parents. They're kind of shifting their gears now as they become more independent. They're moving in these directions. I think they are very vulnerable, and I think the book could become a guide to youth. I think help them see the potential they can have by knowing themselves and by finding how they can become more effective and better.